They're expecting 3 to 5 inches of snow here in Milwaukee later today. Again, we say thank you for putting the roof on Miller Park. This is the rubber game of this 3-game series, the Reds and the Brewers. And hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds baseball right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Tyler Mahle, his first start of the year was simply sensational in a dominant 1-0 win over the Chicago Cubs. But since then, Chris, like a lot of young pitchers, you're going to have your ups and downs.
Boy, am I ever going to miss the Tom Brenneman snow report when we finally do have summer coming around. I'm getting used to these 2 or 3 inches every day. But I can tell you that Mahle is not getting used to the way he pitched the last couple of times out. First time out, he was outstanding. I mean, Joe Madden, the manager of the Cubs, was talking about how good this kid can be. Last couple of times out, bumps in the road. But still, the sample size is very small. He's throwing the ball strikes. Last time, he didn't really run into trouble until his second or third time through the order. And it's a learning experience when you're a young pitcher. They begin to get on what you try to do, and you've got to stay one step ahead of the hitters.
Christian Yelich, outstanding young player, acquired from Miami in the offseason, just activated off the DL. He's in the lineup today.
Well, I mean, he presents a certain problem for pitchers, obviously. Left-handed hitter, he's a good ball guy, up in the zone hitter. I mean, he's one of the big acquisitions they had in the wintertime that was going to put this team over the top offensively. Unfortunately, he has been injured. They've got a lot of injuries here in Milwaukee. We'll see if Yelich is really ready to play or not. He'll have a pretty good test if Mahle's on his game. Zach Davies is a right-hander, the 117 last year. He does it with mirrors and smoke and a lot of chutzpah on the mound because he's a guy who can change speeds. He keeps the ball down. He's not had a really great run of it so far, although he did pitch one good game in between two mediocre games.
All right, when we come back, the Reds bullpen all of a sudden the last handful of days has been very, very good. Jim Day will have that story, and he'll have an update on Joey Votto. You want to know what's happening with Joey Votto? One place to go. Jim Day, Fox Sports Ohio.
Skyline time. Joey Votto takes on the Brewers today by AARP. He's got a 17-game on-base streak versus these Brew Crew. Over that span, 397 average, 4 home runs, and 12 RBIs. 19 walks as well, and a cool .538 on-base percentage. Rubber game of this 3-game set coming up. Tyler Mahle goes to the hill. If he needs to call on that bullpen today, he'll have a bullpen that's going pretty good for Brian Price's squad. You look at the numbers over the last 5 games, and it spans 15 2/3 innings pitched. Just 1 earned run from the bullpen over that time. 16 strikeouts in 15 2/3. Only 4 walks and an opponent batting average of .228. Amir Garrett, as you see on the screen right there, he has been fantastic. Can the Reds get a victory while leaving snowy Milwaukee? It would mean a series victory. Tyler Mahle ready to face the Brew Crew. Tom and Chris are next.
$5,000 kids that were out here today. It's the second year in a row the Reds have been here for what they call Weather Day. And the kids are here about 2 hours before the game and a big weather show on the field. It's great stuff. And then they stick around for the game. Let's take a look at Brian Price's lineup for this afternoon's tilt, presented by Nissan. Winker back in the leadoff spot in right field, returned to the lineup here last night. Peraza in the 2-hole, Votto at first. Duvall, Jeanette, and Barnhart in the middle. Blandino the start at third. Mahle in the 8th spot. Billy Hamilton will bat 9th. On the mound for Milwaukee, coming off his best season as a major leaguer. He's led the Brewers in wins each of the last 2 years, 17 of them in 2017. Zach Davies.
And he's only 25 years old. That's a good thing about Davies. He was grabbed by the Baltimore Orioles in the 2011 draft. 17-game winner last year, 11 games a year before that. He is 11 games over 500, yet he does it with a lot of modest stuff, at least by today's standards of evaluation. Fastball runs right about 90 miles an hour. Changeup, which is his main pitch, you know, throw that at any count, is about 10 miles an hour slower. So he's trying to build on what he did last year, off to a little bit of a tough start. Just 1 good game out of 3 so far.
His most recent outing was 5 days ago in 4 1/3 innings. at Citi Field in New York gave up 7 hits and 5 earned runs. Winker digging in, looks at ball 1 down low. We're underway. The decisive game of this 3-game series. The Reds with 10 runs and 14 hits in the opener, then shut out here yesterday on 3 hits in a 2-0 decision. 1-1 to Winker. Jesse, of course, missed nearly a week outside of a pinch running appearance. Been bothered by a sore shoulder. Was 0 for 2 last night, did walk twice. He's now walked 11 times so far this year. Slow breaking ball drops in there to even the count or to get ahead at 1 ball and 2 strikes. Winker overall 9 hits and 38 at bats, does not have an extra base hit. Chris mentioned Davies just turned 25 years young. That was just before the start of spring training. What a nice deal that's turned out to be for the Brewers. You hear frequently about you can't judge a trade right away. They dealt away Gerardo Parra at the trade deadline in 2015 to acquire Davies, and as we mentioned, each of the last 2 seasons he's led them in victories. Ball stung to straightaway center, and that's out of the reach of Christian Yelich. And that will be a 2-base hit to start the game, and then bobbled out there by Yelich. And all the way to third goes Winker. So first game that Yelich has played in since getting injured on April the 7th. And the very first batter of the game, he commits an error.
That was a nice mid-at-bat adjustment by Jesse Winker. A lot of slow stuff in the at-bat. Here comes in as a little changeup right there. Not bad location. 79 miles an hour, but he hangs right in there. Went to school on what he saw previously from Zach Davies. And this ball was really hammered to center field. So now the Reds' golden opportunity to pick up at least 1 here in this inning.
Jose Peraza, the batter. Checked in at 233. First pitch swinging, a tapper down to third. This will not bring in the run. And that's a first out in the first inning. We look at Craig Counsell's team on defense behind Davies today. Already an error in the game. It's presented by Ford. Yelich, normally a corner outfielder, but with Kane out of the lineup, he's in center today. His first game back. VR back at second. Thames a big home run last night, and Bandy back in there behind the plate. First baseman and third baseman even with the bags for Joey Votto. Runner at third, 1 out, just underway. Joey with 5 runs batted in on this young season. That fastball stands him up inside. Votto walked and singled his first 2 trips last night, and then wound up striking out in each of his last 2 trips to the plate. Votto trying to get the Reds on the board right from the opening inning. 2-0. Jeffrey Kellogg is the crew chief, and he calls the balls and strikes today. Marvin Hudson at first base. James Hoy at second. Quinn Wolcott, the umpire, down at third. Three and 0. We talk about it frequently. Votto tends to be very aggressive on 3-0 counts if it's in a spot where he likes it. He looks at ball 4.
I'll tell you what Davies is thinking right here. He says, you know, I really don't have the stuff to get Joey Votto out, and with a runner at third base, I still would like to preserve no runs already. So he gets behind Votto 2-0. Didn't really give him much to strike at, and he'll take his shot right here, getting a ground ball out of Adam Duvall. Although look at this defensive configuration that the Brewers are going to employ right here. And now they're going to send the second baseman VR a little bit over towards second base. He was standing over right next to the shortstop when he just came to the plate. Duvall, that is.
Adam, 3 home runs, 9 runs batted in. The 9 RBIs, a team best.
All right, now keep in mind this. If you're a right-handed pitcher and you really need a ground ball, what you do is you try to pitch down and inside of the right-handed hitter. And Davies is a sinker ball pitcher, but his best pitch is that changeup, and he'll probably go right on right, down and in, and try to get that ground ball to go over to third base.
Inducing 22 of them a season ago, 5th best among National League hurlers. Duvall has bounced into 1 double play so far this year. Check swing, and the runner at third is going to stay put. They get the out at first, and on to second goes Votto, 2 away. Scooter Gennett. 5 runs batted in on the year as a pair of runners in scoring position with 2 outs. Ball 1 in. Roller to the right side, and VR will throw out Gennett. So the Reds leave him at second and third. Tyler Mahle will take the mound for the 4th time this season when we come back. The hero here last night, Yelich in center, then Santana in right, Shaw, Perez, and VR in the middle. Arcia, Bandy behind the plate. Davies already a Houdini act in the opening half of this inning. And Tyler Mahle gets the ball, making his 4th start of this season.
He was probably paying close attention last night to what Sal Romano did on the mound as he pitched so well against the Brewers. But Mahle's a different type of pitcher. Romano keeps the ball down around the knees with a heavy sinker. Mahle is a guy that throws the ball better up in the zone, across the letters. His favorite off-speed pitch is right there. That's a slider. Kind of a slurvy slider, about 83 miles an hour. Slurvy, I mean, because it's a little bit resembles more of a curveball than it does a really hard slider.
Pulled what Thames normally does. They have the big shift put on him to the right side and a ground out to Votto. We look at the Reds on defense, presented by Ford. Same outfield we saw last night. The only change in the infield is at third. Blandino the nod there. Tucker Barnhart back behind the plate. Christian Yelich was put on the disabled list April the 8th. They activated him prior to the game last night. Did not play in the game. Really, really good player, and still so young is Yelich. Just turned 26 during the winter. And he's been in the big league since 2013. Came up for 62 games that year. His first full year the following year in Miami. Hit .284, 30 doubles. Been a .300 hitter a year later. Each of the last 2 years, he's hit 21 homers, 98 batted in. And then last year, 18 and 81.
And they figure just by being in a much better offensive ballpark like it is here at Miller Park that his offensive numbers will soar, especially the power numbers this year. They're looking at 25 to 30 from him.
And Yelich draws a one-out walk. Both of these pitchers have thrown a lot of strikes. Their numbers are virtually identical. Each starter with 3 starts, 16 innings, 16 innings, 19 hits, 19 hits. 12 runs allowed by Davies, 10 allowed by Mahle. 18 strikeouts against 5 walks for the Milwaukee starter. 14 and 4 now. The numbers for young Mr. Mahle. 1 on, 1 out. Domingo Santana the batter. Strike 1. Santana hitless in this series. Oh for 4 in each of the first 2 games. That his breakout year did Domingo a season ago. He played in 151 games, 139 as a starter, all in right field. Clubbed 30 home runs, even stole 15 bases for a big fella, and drove in 85. Broke his back. Game storyline today brought to you by Elk and Elk. We were talking about similar struggles with Mahle and Davies. Both have been very good out of the gate, but have had trouble starting in inning number 5. And really for Mahle, that's in 2 starts, because his first start was just sensational.
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of the hitters getting on to Mahle the second and third time through. I think it was just a matter of him making poorer pitches. Much more hittable pitches his third time through.
Down to third, Blandino. They turn it over. Jeanette took a hard, clean slide from Yelich, and the Reds turn the double play, which ends the inning. End of 1 in Milwaukee. As you get one more look at it, no score. tonight on Fox Sports Ohio. LeBron James and the Cavs trying to even that series with Indiana from Quicken Loans Arena. Cavaliers Live begins at 6:30 on Fox Sports Ohio, streaming on Fox Sports Go. Presented by Menards is April in the OHIO. Tucker Barnard came on for an injured Devin Mesoraco in the game last night. And he had a pair of doubles in the game. 4 doubles total on the year. A couple of home runs already for Barnhart, who offensively is off to an excellent start this year. 2-0.
Yeah, I really like the on-base percentage for Tucker right now. He has struck out 10 times. He has walked 9. So he's just a hard-to-get-out hitter right now, although he'll make it out here to start the inning.
Got to bring up Alex Blandino.
Any of those guys in my book, Tom, that are close to walks and strikeouts. I mean, there are very, very few that are going to have more walks and strikeouts. Votto in some years can do that. Albert Pujols is that type of hitter, but for the most part, guys don't get penalized for strikeouts anymore. So you see the strikeout rate soar. Those guys that don't strike out much, they have high on-base percentages.
Blandino makes his 4th start since being brought up from the minor leagues. All at third base. The last played on Sunday starting at third. And so far in 15 at bats, Alex has 1 hit. Behind here to Davies, 0-2.
You know, Blandino is in a very tough spot because unless he gets some hits, he's not going to get regular playing time. And sometimes you can say, well, how do you expect me to get on a groove when I'm not getting regular playing time?
It's out in no man's land, and out of nowhere comes Yelich to make the sliding play. Man, did he cover some ground there.
I still didn't know until he held that ball up in his glove that he was the one that came up with it. Hernan Perez came roaring in from left field and looked like it tipped off his glove and then bounced off the leg of Yelich, and there it is.
We couldn't tell from up here.
Brewer magic.
So the assist goes to Perez.
That could have ended a lot worse for the Brewers in a number of different ways.
Wow, how about that? So with 2 away, in the 8th spot is Tyler Mahle. They're getting back to Blandino very quickly there, though. You know, he got brought up on the 10th, so he's been around for a week worth of games, and he started for him. So he's, you know, going to share a little time down there for a while, depending on how a number of things play out.
Well, he's played each of the last 3 days. Actually, 4 days. No, that's not true. He played 5 days in a row from the 11th. But I mean, that's including a pinch hit opportunity and so on. And, you know, I guess it's just a decision the Reds have to make what direction they're going to go with. You know, until Eugenio Suarez comes back off the disabled list.
Sharply hit ball, but right at VR. And it's a perfect 2nd inning for Davies. We played an inning and a half and we're scoreless in Milwaukee.
common. The Fonz played by Henry Winkler. Winker, as in Jesse, no L in his last name unless it's the public address announcers throughout baseball and throughout his life. It seems like everyone always calls him Winkler.
You know, I'm used to it now, but I think it bothers my one brother, Ryan, the most. I believe his Instagram handle is there's no L in Winker. So for whatever reason, he takes the most offense to it. And I don't get it. I don't get how you could just add an L to somebody's last name. But it is what it is. Like, I have no idea what goes on when people are announcing Winkler. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. But I just think it's kind of funny. Like, there's no L. So, like, what are you doing?
Been going on his whole life, and particularly in spring training when we would go to visiting ballparks, even the home ballpark, they would introduce him, outfielder Jesse Winkler. No L. It is Winker, obviously.
Gosh, I've been missing that up for 2 weeks. No scores. The Brewers come to bat here against Tyler Mahle. He had a one-out walk to Yelich, but got a double play ball by Santana. So the cleanup hitter, Travis Shaw from Washington Courthouse, Ohio. Dad Jeff, Mom Julie, they have lived in Washington Courthouse forever. And of course, Jeff, a former all-star pitcher in the major leagues, and had some great years pitching for the Cincinnati Reds. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Shaw came over from the Boston organization, you may remember, prior to last year. And he wound up being Milwaukee's most valuable player last year. With 31 home runs, knocked in 101 runs. Threw a fastball right by him, up and away. And that's a first strikeout for Tyler Mahle.
Well, they had him velocitized. Haven't used that word in a while, but really what I mean by it is the fact that you throw him a bunch of slow stuff, pitch after pitch, and then you zoom him up with the fastball as he does right there. That was a good at bat for Mahle because he really didn't give Shaw much to go after. Once he got ahead of him, it started bouncing a couple of breaking pitches, and then all to set up the fastball.
Hernan Perez, just 5 hits and 33 at bats to begin this year. He does have a couple of home runs, 3 knocked in. He started the first game of this series, came on defensively late yesterday. 3 at bats, no hits in the series thus far for Perez, who traditionally has been a Reds killer. And he bangs that one into center field. A base hit for Perez.
Couple of fastballs in a row right here to Hernan Perez, and this one kind of floated right back down to the center cut. I'll tell you, the infield here at Miller Park is extremely fast compared to what we had in Cincinnati with, you know, a lot of rain in the spring and not a lot of growing season yet, but that ground screws had that field. Nice, healthy grass, very thick. Here, the ball goes through the infield almost like AstroTurf.
VR with a home run, 7 knocked in so far this year. Generally, you see him at the top of the batting order. But again, no Ryan Braun today. He returned to the lineup after missing a couple of days with a sore back. And despite having 2 hits and 4 at bats, he is not in there today. They may not be talking much about it, but when things like that start to happen, especially with right on the edge of the strike zone. Those of you that have back problems or have family members, friends with back problems, they tend to linger for a long, long time. And Braun is still a highly, highly productive player. Off the inside corner, 2 balls and a strike. And now 2-2 the count on Perez. Runner at first has 1 steal, has been thrown out 1 time. Count goes full. Of course, the meteoric rise last year through the Reds farm system, had just such an extraordinary year at Double-A, including a perfect game. Got him to Louisville, wasn't there long, and then to the big leagues. Runner not going, swing and a miss. Second strikeout of the inning and the second strikeout of the game for Malley.
Bread and butter pitch right there for Tyler Malley. 4-seam fastball up in the zone. Nice easy delivery. He hides the ball well with his glove. If you watch him break his hands, that left glove that he kind of flashes up in the front of him has a tendency to hide the baseball very well. All of a sudden, that ball that has a little extra life gets right on top of you.
Orlando Arcia, the batter. He's had a good series. 4 hits and 7 at bats. A pair of hits in each of the first 2 games. That gives you an idea about how mightily he has struggled so far this year. The fact that he has 4 hits in the last 2 days, and yet the batting average has just eclipsed 200.
Well, I can explain a little bit of that because they're pitching him away right now. And if you watch his front foot, his left foot is just inching just a little bit towards third base. It's a little bit open right now. He never really does get it closed and give him a chance to get the outside corner cover. See how he kind of steps in the bucket a little bit? Not dramatic. I mean, it's not like he's stepping right towards the third base coach, but it's just enough to get him off, get the barrel off the ball if you can locate on the outer part of the plate. That's kind of what I'm looking at right there.
Went down there away with a breaking ball. And it's 2 balls and 2 strikes on Orlando Arcia.
Now, the one spot, though, that you can make a mistake to Arcia and even hit your part of the plate is if you elevate that ball waist high on the outer edge, you know, you can reach that. It's a lot tougher to reach it when it's down around the knees.
Shoots that one down the right field line towards the corner and bending foul and out of play.
Kind of an example of what I'm talking about right there. You know, you're always afraid to come inside to a guy who's bailing. You know, the old saying, bailing and wailing. You know, don't throw it where he just left. Now, he's a little bit more closed that way, a little bit almost straight up and square. Maybe a 2-strike approach here for Arcia.
That's a position right there, the location of that pitch where he can hurt you.
Yeah, now you got him set up after a couple of fastballs in a row. You dropped a little slitty on him.
Although he's so tall and long that he does have a lot of plate coverage.
He sure does. He is one smooth, slick fielding shortstop.
Oh, boy.
And they're just hoping that someday down the road this guy begins to grow into the offensive potential that you see in him. You're not really sure when or if, but it's there.
Well, I tell you what, you would take his numbers, what he had last year. I think just about any team in baseball. That one's high and tight, and he went around on the appeal to first base, and Marvin Hudson says that's strike 3. Malley fans 3 in the inning, allows a hit. Take one more look going to break.
Strikeout of the inning. Watch this pitch. High fastball inside. Arcia tries to hold back and ends up getting called for a swinging strike right there. And you know, if you notice that, you'll see hitters get called for that swinging strike that he went much more often when the pitch is up around the letters than when it's down around the knees. Because when you turn your body, the bat head clears your body, and that's what gives the umpire the impression that you went. They're looking at that bat head. Completely a judgment call by the umpire.
Billy Hamilton leads things off here in the Reds' 3rd inning, batting in the 9th spot in the batting order today. Billy went 0 for 4 last night after having a real nice night, batting in the leadoff spot here on Monday, where he had 2 hits, was on base 3 times, scored twice, drove in 3 runs. Scoreless game with Cincinnati batting in the top half of the 3rd inning. Popped up, short left center, same spot we saw a little while ago, except Perez will get to it standing up. Grand slam, stand-up triple, ground rule double. Sure, those are nice, but all you really need is a dribbling infield hit to keep a streak alive. It's a fun game to play. It's called Beat the Streak. Download it now. It's where you pick a player or players to get a base hit in a game. And you try to reach, of course, the all-time consecutive games hitting streak number. That's why it's called 56 from Jolton Joe DiMaggio. Back to to the top of the order. Winker doubled to straightaway center field to lead off the game. And when Yelich went to pick up the ball and try and throw it back to the infield, he dropped the ball. That one was called a strike. So anyway, Winker wound up going all the way to third, leading off the Reds' first inning. He would be stranded at third.
That's a good bit of pitching by Zach Davies to get out of that inning, but you're also looking around wondering, you know, not only do you have a runner at third base, but you've also got the thickest part of your order coming up.
Strike 3, and Jesse knew it. That's strikeout number 1 on the afternoon for Zach Davies.
Well, Zach Davies is living proof right there 60 feet away from home plate that you don't have to throw 97 to be successful with the fastball. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of deception right there, and froze Winker.
Slow breaking ball to Peraza, who rolled one to third his first time up. Sounded like it may have tipped about, apparently not, but he did go around on that swing.
It's another example of a guy. I mean, he can't believe that he got called for a swing right there when the bat really travels because he turns his body, not his hands.
That's what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Lifted at Yelich in center, and it's back-to-back 1, 2, 3 innings for Davies, who's retired 8 in a row. Offering this season. Packages feature an exclusive item including a Star Wars Chewbacca, Fiona the Hippo, Elvis bobbleheads, and more. Guarantee these limited edition collectibles by purchasing a theme ticket package. Go to reds.com/themes to check it out. No score in the rubber game of this 3-game series. The Reds winning the opener, pounding the Brewers 10-4, and then good pitching on both sides here last night. Milwaukee slightly better in a 2-0 decision. 8-9-1 in the order against Tyler Mahle, and a base hit into left field by the number 8 hitter catcher Jeff Bandy.
It's a manager's dream right there when that happens. When your number 8 guy gets a base hit to lead the inning off, it sets it up perfectly for the pitcher coming up next. Finds a hole with a ground ball. Really nothing you can do about that if you're Tyler Mahle, except now have your wits about you. Realize that it's the catcher running at first base. And make sure that clock in your head is ticking away when you go field a bunt if it comes back to you hard. This is where if you're bunting off of Tyler Mahle, you really need to start the bat at the very top of the strike zone and bring it down, because if you start chasing pitches up with that fastball the way he throws it, you're never going to get it down to the ground.
Well, you would think the Reds would play this very aggressive, even with 2 strikes, because you have Bandy, the catcher, running at first base. And really see if they can't come after this. Although that is a brutal effort by Davies. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, you know, Chris is a fan, that you sit there and ask yourself, I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
With all of the practicing allegedly that is being done, and really the only thing pitchers are ever asked to do offensively is to put down a bunt. And that?
Well, especially if you've got to go back to a dugout that is manned by that guy who could probably get a bunt down in a snowstorm at midnight. I mean, the ultimate little things player was Craig Counsell.
And as we've told the story many times, not only to do the little things, but during his career he proved frequently that he was at his best on the biggest stage. And a couple of World Series titles. Driven into deep right center field. Hamilton cannot get there. And Thames has done it to the Reds again. I don't know what it is about the month of April, but with that home run, Thames now has 1 more home run than Bryce Harper for most in the major leagues the last 2 years.
We don't need no stinking bunt.
You're right.
That was a breaking ball right there. He hit a high fastball last night off of Romano. Just to show you that he shares the wealth.
Thames hit 10 home runs against the Reds last season. The 2 teams played each other 9 times in April last year, and Thames hit 8 home runs. And that's a number we were talking about. He was tied coming into the game for the most home runs in the month of April over the last 2 seasons with Bryce Harper at 17, and now it's 18 for Eric Thames. For Mahle in almost 19 innings. That's the 5th home run he's allowed this year. I guess more accurately, it would be in his last 12 innings where he's allowed the 5 home runs, because of course his first start of the year was that brilliant performance, 6 innings of 1-hit shutout baseball against Chicago. Base hit by Yelich. So in his return to the lineup today, he's drawn a walk and now has a hit.
I'm not the only one that feels this way, but I don't think that Christian Yelich is anywhere close yet to the type of player that he can be. Former #1 draft pick. He's 26 years old. You mentioned that earlier, Tom. The Marlins picked him out of Westlake High School in California. Got to the big leagues at age 21 and has never looked back. I mean, right now, Yelich, parts of 6 seasons in the big leagues, including only 6 games here so far. .291 lifetime batting average. He hit right at 300 in his second full season when he was 23.
And you better keep an eye on him over there because he will take off from time to time. He had 16 stolen bases last year.
He's had as many as 21. He's always good for double digits, swiping bags.
So a fastball right by the big fella, and that's 5 strikeouts in the last. Well, the last 5 outs recorded by Mahle have all been via the strikeout.
What a great sequence here. Slider first, then followed with this fastball, and he goes right upstairs and by Santana. That's a big, long swing for Santana. I mean, when he connects, it goes a long way, but so far he's hit a ground ball double play and a strikeout. I would think that maybe Yelich would be a guy that's going to run a lot, but not right now. He's just fresh off the disabled list. Had the infamous oblique injury that has plagued so many baseball players, and it's probably something he's not even thinking about right now. He's just happy to be back on the field.
Obviously, you're talking levels of severity because Yelich was out a little more than 2 weeks with an oblique injury. Anthony DeSclafani has already been placed on the 60-day disabled list with a similar injury.
I think the severity of the pull, where it is on your rib cage too. Is it in the front? Is it up high? Is it in the back? Not a lot you can do for it. Avoiding sneezing is a big thing.
Well, you were telling the story. You had one of those one time, and rather than sit out, you shaved, around the area, upper chest area, and put tape on it.
Yeah, I didn't do it. The trainer put tape
right.
on it. Yeah, and he said when you pitch, hold your breath.
How'd
Everybody
it work?
held their breath when I pitched.
Oh boy. Oh boy. This one's a bad one. There's a fan who got hit right in the face with that line drive. And everybody in this ballpark knows it. There's ball 4 to try to Shaw. Well, apparently it looks like the fella's going to be okay. He's a young man, appears to be about early 20s, and good Lord willing, he's going to be okay. Duvall comes on to make the catch. That will end the inning. But Thames does damage again with a 2-run home run and a 2-0 Milwaukee lead at the end of 3.
Good starts from the Reds' single-A affiliates. Dayton Dragons off to a 6-3 start as a team, and a couple of high draft choices last year. Stuart Fairchild, Jeter Downs off to hot starts at the high A level. The Daytona Tortugas off to a 9-3 start as a team, as Joey Votto delivers a base hit. Tyler Stevenson, a former first-round pick, 15th overall catcher, .432 average, 4 doubles. And pitchers Tony Santillan, in 3 starts, 16 innings, he has yet to allow a single run. And Hunter Green pitches tonight for the Dayton Dragons.
Jimbo, thank you. Votto loops that single into right field, and his bat split into about 4 or 5 pieces there. The huge chunk ahead of it actually came completely behind the plate. And the catcher Bandy was turned around, it was right behind him. Take a look at this. Actually, after Joey knew it was going to be a hit, he actually turned and looked to make sure everything was, and everybody was okay.
He may be on the phone to his bat company. I mean, because after he saw that video the other day of Bryce Harper hitting one 400 feet with a broken bat, and his only goes, 130 feet into the outfield. He said, hey, where are you getting this wood? I may need some new wood.
Duvall, the batter. Adam came up there with runners at first and third and 1 out in the first inning and hit the ball right off the end of the bat, right back to the pitcher Davies, who threw him out. And then Davies would retire Jeanette to end the inning. See if the Reds here, after a leadoff single by Votto, can answer the 2 runs in the Brewers' 3rd inning. Tapper to third, Shaw, and that's all they'll get.
Solid play by Shaw right there. I mean, he got himself in great position, used his feet to get himself nicely set, so he didn't have to field that ball really when he was off balance, and threw a perfect strike to the second baseman covering the bag. I think that's still one deal the Boston Red Sox would like to undo.
Although they appear to be just doing fine.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what a start to begin Alex Cora's, Joey Cora's managerial debut. 14-2 are the Boston Red Sox after a shellacking of the Angels last night.
That was the Japanese phenom Ohtani, I believe, who pitched against the Red Sox last night.
He had a blister on his finger. He really got knocked around by Alex Cora's team early on, but had to leave the game in the 2nd inning with a blister. One the count on Scooter. On the ground and right through the wickets of Thames. Votto will make the turn and advance on to third base. So the Reds catch a break.
Hit very sharply by Jeanette, but it's going to be an error all the way. It looks like that Thames went right down and had it smothered, only to turn around and see it squirting into the outfield there. So the ball goes to third. Reds have them on the corners.
2nd error already in this game. behind Zach Davies, the first batter of the game. Yelich committed an error on. And now it's Thames' turn, and here's Tucker Barnhart. Tucker 0 for 1, flied out to center field. Duvall, the runner at third. And over at first, it's Jeanette. We talked about the errors. They had 18 of them coming into this series. By far the most in the major leagues, and now 2 more in the game today. Tucker Barnhart trying to make him pay for that defensive miscue with runners at first and third. Nothing, and 1 the count, and Davies coming to the plate. Back to the mound. And they have Duvall in a rundown. Shaw will feed Thames, who applies a tag. Jeanette goes on to third, and Barnhart moves into second base, but 2 outs in the inning.
Well, Duvall gets caught in no man's land. I think that he thought that Shaw was far enough away from him that he wouldn't sneak in behind him. But when he was frozen by the pitcher, Zach Davies, that's when Shaw snuck into third base and ended up getting him in a rundown. So really no harm done for the Reds right there. They move the runners up second and third. They'll walk Blandino intentionally to pitch to Tyler Mahle. You know, the key to that really, once you get picked off, is to stay in the rundown long enough to have everybody advance a base.
Mahle made solid contact his first time up. I mean, he hit a bullet right at the second baseman VR. 1 hit in 5 big league at bats this season for Tyler Mahle. In fact, you look every ball put in play today for the Reds, and Mahle with probably the second hardest stroke with bat meeting ball today after the double by Winker to center field to lead off the game. 1 ball, 1 strike on Tyler Mahle. Fooled badly by the slow breaking ball that time from Davies. Reds in the first and again here in the fourth had a runner at third with fewer than 2 men out. Puts the ball in play. But VR will throw out Mahle, and the Reds leave them loaded. They've stranded 5 so far in the game and trail by 2.
How about Mookie Betts? Had his third career 3-home run game, first of which came off of Shohei Ohtani. That ties him with Ted Williams for the most in Red Sox history. Elsewhere around MLB, Robinson Cano, 302nd home run last night, breaks a tie with Rogers Hornsby, second all time for a second baseman, trailing only Jeff Kemp. Chase Utley hit by another pitch, the 200th time in his career, is the only active player that's been hit that many times. 8th now in Major League Baseball history. And Patrick Corbin outdueled former Red Johnny Cueto last night. A complete game, 1-hit shutout versus the Giants. Cueto also pitched well. He went 7, allowed 2 hits and no runs, and struck out 11. You know, a first just happened in my career. I just got nailed with a baseball while I was talking there.
You did? Well, throwing one back in from the infield or something? I think Joey got you. Is he waving at you over there?
He is waving at me.
He is.
We actually had a conversation about paying attention during games, but when I'm reading a card, he's making it a little hard on me.
I mean, that's what we talk about all the time, though, Jim. And I know you're very humble about it. And
yeah, got me in a good spot.
The relationship that, you know, for a long, long time you developed with all the years he played here, Brandon Phillips, and how that's sort of now, you know, moved forward to your connections and connection individually with the Red Star first baseman Joey Votto. I mean, he's even got an eye on you when he's out there prior to the start of an inning. It's good stuff. That is a bunt. That is a big time bunt. And that's a bunt hit for VR. And we know he can run.
Well, he can run. When he gets on base, he does run and run a lot. Problem with VR last year, he didn't get on base very much. Just a nice little job. You don't see that many left-handed hitters pull bunting, you know, drag bunting, if you want to call it that, down the right field line. A lot of guys like to push it to third base. I think it's a much better spot to bunt between pitcher's mound and first base because of all the confusion that can happen between pitcher, first baseman, runner going down the line. There's just, I mean, it's something bad waiting to happen.
VR a perfect 3 of 3 in stolen base attempts. Arcia struck out his first time up. Had a lengthy at bat, spanning nearly 10 pitches, but Tyler got him. Alley is fanned 5, walked 2, allowed 2 runs and 5 hits. The big blow, the 2-run home run by Thames in the 3rd. You know, when you get into this ballpark, and I mean, it's the talk of the town right now, all the snow they've already had the last number of days, and all of the snow they're calling for again today. But you can't see through the panels in the outfield. It's only at the very street level where you'd walk in where you see maybe about 10 feet worth of space out there. And we were wondering, you know, is this really going to happen? It's really not going to snow here again today. All the people were talking about it. And I can't tell if it is or not. Straight up in the air.
Well, you're not much of a weatherman then if you can't tell if it's snowing or not. I mean, I'm going to miss the Tom Brenneman ski report.
I'm just, yeah, I think like everybody else around here. You and I were talking on Monday night that a little more than an hour from here, they had 33 inches of snow. 33.
I mean, you are in upper Wisconsin after all.
Yeah, but they don't get stuff like this. They don't even get stuff like this in the winter. They really don't. They get a lot of snow up here, but we mentioned the other night, you start to see maybe sleeting a little bit, starting to blow around.
Well, with all the school buses out there, you think that they canceled school and took all the students to the ballpark, which is my kind of day at school.
No, that's every kid's kind of day. Every kid. Boy, girl. I mean, they're all dialed in. One away in the inning, and here's Bandy, who had a single and scored on the Thames home run an inning ago. In fact, whatever this weather pattern is, just to tie a ribbon around that whole conversation, it stretches south to Chicago, where they have already called off the Cubs and the Cardinals today. I don't know how many games that is now the Cubs have had postponed. That has to be at least 4, if not 5 games. They were running in a neck-and-neck race with the Detroit Tigers and the Minnesota Twins as to which organization has lost the most games, and we've barely played 3 weeks of this Major League Baseball season.
One of those, of course, with the Reds and Cubs that will be made up in May as part of a day-night doubleheader, right?
Yep.
Those are the kind of days that can stretch your pitching staff enough. You stack up enough doubleheaders, even though you're allowed to bring up one more player, one more extra pitcher. Not the same.
Another base hit for the number 8 hitter, Bandy. A perfect 2 for 2 getting the start today.
Riley hit a ground ball between the third baseman and the shortstop his first time up. That time he kind of lofts a little medium hard hit ground or a sinking fly ball off the end of the bat.
Well, Davies did not look good when asked to bunt his first time up. This time, perfect. And he'll advance the runners, and oh boy, it looked like VR had ideas of streaking down the line after rounding third.
Well, there was nobody covering third base, so he had nothing to lose right there. And I think maybe in the back of his mind, VR is thinking, hey, you know, if somebody panics down there at first base and fires a throw to home and it goes wide, I'll score on this. Third baseman crashing on the bunt, so there's nobody near the third base bag.
Well, they intentionally walked Thames. Well, when's the last time somebody was intentionally walked to face Christian Yelich? This guy's a career 300 hitter, roughly.
Well, you got to play the odds here. I mean, with the ground ball, I guess. I don't know.
There's 2 outs in the inning.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know.
Now, there's no question that Thames has just been among the ultimate Reds killers. There's no debate whatsoever. But there is also no debate whatsoever that Yelich is a much, much better hitter than Eric Thames.
Well, what I don't like about it is that you have a young pitcher on the mound and you have nowhere now for him to pitch around Yelich if he falls behind.
Thames has homered in each of the last 2 games. And it's 2-0 now on Yelich, with Malley trying to wiggle off the hook and keep it 2-0 and leave the bases loaded. See if Tyler can get it done. And he's fallen behind 3-0. I think the world would be stunned if Yelich swung at this pitch. But one never knows. Bases loaded, 2 outs, 3 balls and a strike on Christian Yelich. Fastball, strike 2.
Boy, 2 really good located fastballs after he ran the count 3-0.
All right, money time here now for young Mr. Malley. Well behind 3-0. He's come back with a pair of fastball strikes. Runners get started, 2 outs. The payoff pitch to Christian Yelich. Got him swinging, and how about Malley? Getting the job done after the intentional walk in front of him. How about that? Brought to you by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. And by your local Ford dealer, Ford. Go further. You picked up some of those before the game today.
By far my #1 favorite concession in all of baseball. The hot roasted pecans, almonds, cashews. I'll be down there right after the game. Grab some for the trip to St. Louis.
There you go. All right, Billy Hamilton, then Jesse Winker and Jose Peraza. The big strikeout by Malley coming all the way back from a 3-0 count to take care of Christian Yelich.
I'll tell you, that really shows me something with Malley. You know, it's not easy to pitch in the big leagues. It's not especially easy in your second year. But that showed me that he's not one bit scared.
Billy blasts one into right field. But at the warning track, making the over-the-shoulder catch is Winker. Or, I beg your pardon, is Santana. And that's out #1. Winker coming up. Coming up later, we look forward to the Hold True moment presented by Miller Lite. Winker is doubled and struck out. 2 runs, 6 hits, 2 errors for Milwaukee, opening the door for a pair of potentially scoring innings for the Reds in this game. They've been unable to break through thus far. No runs, 2 hits for the Reds. I heard you playing this song on your iPod the other day.
You know, I know we're right next to each other in the hotel. We were here Are you the kind of guy that listen with like a glass up against the wall?
No, I'm not.
Well, how did you know I was playing that song?
No, I heard it on the plane.
Oh. I've been playing it nonstop. Something's wrong with my iPad. I can't get it off of the loop.
Ice, Ice, Baby. That has been a favorite of Jim Day's for a long time. There's a swing and a miss by Winker, and a count of 2 balls and 2 strikes. I think Jim told us he went to see, who's the artist on that? Vanilla Ice? Is that right? Stage name? Yeah, I remember Jim telling us about going to that show. Roller to the right of the second baseman, VR.
2 out. Tom, I want to mention a couple of things that are coming up in Cincinnati, and they both have something to do with the Dave Parker 39 Foundation.
Yep.
Of course, that's a foundation for Parkinson's. One is a free screening of the film, The Boys of Summer Second Base. It's about a 20,000-mile, 2-month trek to all 30 major league parks after one of the guys was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And the other is on April 24th at the Reds game, where the Reds will donate $6 to Putting for Parkinson's and the Dave Parker 39 Foundation on that April the 24th game. And if you want any information about both of those, the movie screening is at the Marymount Theater on the 23rd. The Reds game is on the 24th. Dave Parker 39 Foundation.com, and Doug King will get you all the information you need.
Peraza, good bunt there, and that'll be a bunt single for Jose Peraza in front of Joey Votto.
See, that's a drag bunt. Anytime you pull the ball a little bit, it's a drag bunt. And Peraza is one of the better bunters in the league. That's a great weapon.
Votto has walked and singled, and he represents a tying run. Still looking for his first home run of this 2018 season is Votto. Good time for it right about now. Ball 1 low and away. Tied with Justin Morneau, longtime Minnesota Twin, for the second most hits by a Canadian-born player, the great Larry Walker. My, oh my, what a player he was. Originally broke in with the Montreal Expos, went to Colorado, just had some incredible seasons, and then of course wrapped things up getting to the postseason last couple of years into his career as a St. Louis Cardinal. But golly day, was he something else. Could run like the wind, built like a linebacker, great defensive player, could do it all. He was the quintessential, if you will, 5-tool player was Larry Walker. He could do it all. Frequently injured, but what a player. Walker during his career averaged his 162 game average was 31 home runs and 107 runs batted in, on base percentage of over 400, and his average batting average .314. Won multiple batting titles. What a player. But he was frequently hurt. Had a lot of seasons where he'd play 82 games, 87 games, 103, 127. Two and two on Votto. There goes Peraza. And it's fouled away by Joey. Runner going, but a jam shot roller down to first, and that will retire the side. A bunt single by Peraza. Halfway through it, a 2-0 Milwaukee lead. Ohio tomorrow night, game 4. Blue Jackets leading the Capitals 2-1. Tough overtime loss last night for Columbus. Blue Jackets Live will come your way at 7 p.m. The game to follow, April in the OHIO, presented by Menards. You know, people forget, and it's really hard to believe, and it gives you an idea of how, you know, historically speaking, the Green Bay Packers are one of the most storied franchises in the history of professional sports. But, you know, before Brett Favre showed up there, it was a franchise that, you know, the following was really beginning to wane. So much so that you think of historic Lambeau Field, they would play a home game in Milwaukee every single year and not play a game at Lambeau. Well, that will never happen again. There's a fly ball to right. That's why I was thinking of those guys out there that shot tailgating in the snow.
I thought they had enough owners. I mean, those that own one share of stock
I'm
in
one of
the
those
Packers,
guys.
that they would be able to fill the stadium if just the owners showed up.
Well, that's true. But for some reason, you know, it was a strange time. I remember I was doing games back in those days, and in fact did a couple of the Packer games at Old County Stadium here.
That seems like kind of a conflict of interest, doesn't it? I mean, to own the ball club and be broadcasting the game.
You know what? You're probably right. But they were actually purchased for me to share by some friends for taking them to Lambeau a few years ago.
Very nice.
So technically they own it.
As long as you keep it right down the middle.
It's hard to do, though, when you go to Green Bay. They're an easy team to root for. Great fans, great teams, fun. They have almost as many people in the stands for a Packer game on a Sunday as they have for the entire population of Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's a remarkable setting. Two and two on Travis Shaw. Shaw has struck out and drawn a walk. He's had a very quiet series so far, trying to get out of here before he gets hot. 2 of 8 in the series with no runs batted in. 18 career games Shaw has played against the Reds, and he has a hit at 16 of those 18. Second straight walk to Shaw. That's 4 walks in the game now by Mahle. One more than his season total in 3 starts coming in. Well, the Miami Marlins are coming to town, and you can be there at Great American Ballpark to watch them battle the Reds for as low as $12. We'll have a Fireworks Fridays, Super Saturday. That'll be the Eugenio Suarez bobblehead. Of course, we always have Family Sundays thanks to Klosterman Baking Company. For tickets, visit Reds.com. 1 on, 1 out. Perez, the batter, looks at strike 1. Be a single to center and fly to left. Hooked into left field, a base hit, and on the second goes Shaw.
Good bit of hitting right there. Perez really waited on that ball. I mean, he kept his hands back, his weight back, didn't get out over his front foot, and it was a breaking ball that really was not all that bad of a pitch.
It's the 3rd inning in a row now that Mahle's going to have to pitch out of some trouble.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting, though, Tom. If he's able to get out of this inning and he's a ground ball double play from being out of it, his line will look almost identical to that line of Sal Romano last night. But because Romano's happened, you know, in the last inning he was out there giving up the home run to Thames, he seemed like he was cruising a lot more. And he was. I mean, Mahle's had to make some pitches under pressure. But it was also pressure last night because it was a 0-0 ball game. Very tight one. There's Sal.
Yeah, he only allowed 2 base runners in the first 5 innings of the game. Whereas here we are 4 innings into this one. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 base runners for Mahle.
Now remember, ultimately they only ask you how many, not how you do it.
That's right. That's the only stat that matters at the end of the day. How many?
You just wonder how many times he can go to that well, because when you're working out of trouble as much as Tyler Mahle has had to do so far this afternoon, you just get mentally worn out. How many times can you muster up one more big pitch?
He's fallen behind VR now, 3 balls and a strike. Once again, Bryce warming up in the Reds bullpen. Made a pitch here to run the count full. VR is struck out swinging and laid down a bunt for a single to lead off the last inning. It's number 5. It was called a strike. 3-2 to VR with 2 on and 1 out in the Brewers' 5th inning. Back to the mound. And a throw handled by Peraza. You just said it, Chris Welsh, if he can roll up the double play, and that's what he does. Boy, that's very impressive. Very, very impressive.
Honorary bat boy Teddy Kramer became an instant celebrity after Todd Frazier hit a home run in a game against the Marlins upon Kramer's request. Teddy was so excited when he greeted Frazier at the home plate that he forgot to pick up his bat. Dusty Baker called Teddy the ultimate positive thinker. And anyone that has ever met Teddy Kramer, boy, does he bring a smile to your face. He just loves life and is a bundle of joy.
Well, you're right about that, Jim Day. I've had a chance, many of us have had a chance to run into Teddy at some function or another charity event. He's all over the town with his mom and dad, and what a great kid. Well, he's a man. I mean, he's a really good man. Always smiling, always happy, always upbeat. I mean, even the way the Reds are going right now, I can promise you if Teddy's not working today, he's dialed in right now cheering hard for the Reds. They trail 2-0 as Duvall, Jeanette, and Barnhart come to bat here in the 6th inning. Tomahawked into left center. Bad luck for Duvall. That ball stung, but a loud out. Scooter Gennett with a count of 1-0. On the ground at VR, and this will be the second out of the inning.
It's been a long time since Zach Davies has had a deep into the ball game performance against this Reds team. I mean, every time he's taken the ball, really from about the midway point of 2016 till now, I mean, he was 5 and fly. Here he is with 1 out away from completing 6. Last time he did that was July the 17th of 2016 when he went 7 innings of shutout baseball. Actually, the Reds beat the Brewers 1-0 that day.
Barnhart fly to center and tapped into a fielder's choice. Well, the longest outing any Brewer starter has gone this year is 6 1/3. And that was Chase Anderson against the Mets. And there's strike 3, and Tucker knew it. Only 2 strikeouts in the game, but a 3-hit shutout for Davies. Garrett becoming a force in that Reds bullpen. We'll have that story. Tucker Barnhart reacts to receiving his Gold Glove Award. And Billy Hamilton analyzes some of the runs he's created with that speed. Reds Weekly presented by Miami Bailey Gaming. Co-hosted, of course, by Jeff Pecoro and Doug Flynn. That's tonight at 6 on Fox Sports Ohio. I assume that's Jim Day getting together with Billy Hamilton. Well, the afternoon is finished for Reds starter Tyler Mahle. He goes 5 innings, allows 7 hits, 2 runs. Pitched out of huge jams in each of his last 2 innings. He walked 4, 1 intentionally, and recorded 6 strikeouts. Austin Bryce comes on from the Cincinnati bullpen.
Eighth game of this season so far for Austin.
One hopper to Blandino.
Yeah, we were talking about the last time that Zach Davies pitched a really superlative game against the Reds. It was July of 2016. It was a 0-0 game until the bottom of the 9th inning. The loss went to Thornburg, but it was pitched by Dan Straley. The reason I bring that up is because, of course, Austin Bryce was the other player the Reds acquired in that Dan Straley deal, along with Eugenio Suarez.
Popped up.
Oh. I'll correct myself in a second.
And now a quick message from Miami Valley Gaming.
Get ready to get lucky.
All right, so Suarez came from Miami, but he came in exchange for Alfredo Simon. No? Detroit. I don't know why I'm thinking Miami there. Anyway, it was Luis Castillo and Bryce coming northward from Miami in that Straley deal.
Straley was one of those guys, you know, when the most recent fire sale began down in Miami, when Derek Jeter's group took ownership of the club, and you know, they started trading guys like Yelich and Giancarlo Stanton, and you know, dismantling a decent team. They weren't a great team, but they certainly had potential to be considerably better this year. Ozuna traded to the Cardinals. Straley was one of those guys that said, hey, look, if there are guys that don't want to be around here, then get them out of here, trade them. And he said, I would love to be part of a rebuild. He says, I'm a guy that certainly can appreciate what it's like to try and hang on and, you know, a survivor. And Straley a couple of times has had to go out and prove himself worthy of getting the ball in the major leagues, and made the most of it with that opportunity with the Reds. 3-1 the count on the pitcher Davies. 3-2. Trying for a 1-2-3 inning is Bryce. And that's strike 3 call. So good work by Austin. And the Reds will bat in the 7th. It's still just a 2-0 deficit.
It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
I don't know what Reds fans would buy in the Brewers team shop. Those guys are checking it out. May the Force be with you on Star Wars Night at the Ballpark, coming up Friday, May the 4th. Get appearances from the Star Wars characters, a post-game fireworks show with a Star Wars soundtrack presented by PNC Bank. You can be there for $12. Reds and the Marlins. For tickets, visit Reds.com. That'll be really the first extended homestand for the Reds. They're in a stretch where they're playing all but 4 games on the road. They'll come home after the weekend in St. Louis and play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 3 night games and a day game as Blandino is hit to start the inning. And now the tying run will come to the plate. And it's going to be in the form of one Phillip Ervin.
He had about no chance to get out of the way of that one.
Well, after it hit Blandino, it also got a piece of the catcher, Blandy, and he's going to need a minute to come out there and try and exercise some of the pain. So Ervin bats for Bryce, who works a perfect 6th inning.
And the Brewers have Dan Jennings out in the bullpen, the left-hander, in case this inning goes long enough to get to the left-handed part of the Reds' order.
And the Reds have action in their bullpen as well. They'll, of course, have to make a pitching change. And cranking it up is a left-hander, Wandy Peralta. Well, here's Ervin, who was on a run of getting regular playing time and starts into the opening game of this series. But with a return yesterday and today of Winker, Ervin is summoned from the bench. He had 2 hits and a run scored here on Monday night in that 10-4 victory. We talked about the longest a Brewer starter has pitched into a game this season is 6 1/3 innings. And we've seen in this series that Craig Counsell has a pretty quick hook down there. I mean, really, his starters have pitched very well in this series, extraordinarily well. There's a liner, one hopper, and Arcia from his knee will throw out Ervin at first. Can you believe that? And that's from the hole of shortstop. We've talked all weekend about this young man's arm. My goodness.
Ball was really hit hard by Ervin. I mean, he squared it up perfectly, but that guy can flat outfield. Almost nonchalant. I mean, by the time he kind of somersaulted back into a position where he could throw. Ervin probably can't believe it.
Now Billy Hamilton 0 for 2. Two balls and a strike on Hamilton, who's popped to left and lined to right. Tapper foul, first base side, even to count. When a runner gets on, I mean, Davies goes into complete shutdown mode. On the ground to the right side, the runner will. Oh my goodness, another error by this Brewers team. The third one today, 21 of them this year. And 2 of the 3 today are on ground balls to the right side of the infield. Thames and now VR, where they didn't even have to move.
Well, I can see Thames a little bit because the ball was hit so hard by Jeanette, but that ball was about a 15 hopper that he just pulled up a little bit and bobbled it. He wasn't even looking at it. You see where, yep. And that'll run the pitcher.
You look at the last 2 nights. 5 2/3, 1 hit shutout baseball by Guerra. And at least for the time being, 6 1/3 of 3 hit shutout baseball by Davies. Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Back in a moment. With 3 errors behind him in his game, starting from the very first batter of the game. Yet, he is still not giving up a run. He leaves after 6 1/3 innings, 3 hits, no runs. But the Reds are trying to get back into this thing, trailing 2-0. They have Jesse Winker coming up after the error by VR, which should have been a second out of the inning. And now it's a 3rd straight day, or the 2nd straight day, I beg your pardon, where we've seen a left-hander, Dan Jennings, on his birthday yesterday. He wound up getting the victory in relief.
Yeah, we saw Hader yesterday for 2 innings. This is an area where Craig Counsell really feels his bullpen is good. It's a good shutdown middle innings bullpen. Of course, they've lost their closer Corey Knebel to a leg injury for a long time, and we'll see if now lefty on lefty what comes of this matchup. Jennings is basically fastball slider. 60%, 40%.
Winker has only come to the plate a total of 7 times against left-handers this year. He's 1 for 5 with 2 walks.
Yeah, you got to figure in this matchup, Tom, if you're Billy Hamilton at first base, you know, Jennings is going to go after Winker with that slider. And you're always looking for a breaking ball to try to steal on. That first pitch would have been ideal. I think really your odds are in this count that you're going to get more sliders in this count than you are fastballs. So there's no reason to wait too long.
Billy representing, of course, a tying run over there at first base.
And I got to figure he's got a better move than that.
Jennings saw a total of 2 batters in earning the win yesterday. He picked up the final out in the 6th in relief of Garrett, getting Scooter Gennett on a fly ball. The first batter the next inning doubled off of it, Tucker Barnhart, and then he was taken out of the game. But he got the win because it was the bottom of the 6th inning where the Brewers got the 2-run home run by Thames. It's where the cat and mouse game begins now with a pitcher and batter. Saw a lot of this in the game once it was turned over to the bullpens last night, where all the air is just completely sucked out of a game. There goes Hamilton, and it had been timeout called by Winker. That's what we were just talking about, the cat and mouse thing of pitcher waiting, batter waiting.
The rule book says, of course, that a batter has to ask for timeout before he steps out of the batter's box. But once the pitcher starts his windup or comes to his set position, the umpire is not, it's not mandatory that he's got to give him timeout. But what happens nowadays, these pitchers are holding the ball for so long that even the umpire probably needs a timeout.
Well, we saw Jennings last night. He holds the ball so long that you can tell the umpire even gets agitated working behind the plate. I mean, watching umpire, they'll go up, they'll go down, they'll get themselves ready. They think they're ready. Now they have to go up and down again because he's still holding the ball. 1 ball and 1 strike.
A little quicker that time. Well, that's one of the best defenses pitchers have to hold runners. It is holding it varying amounts of times, but for Jennings, it's long and longer.
Trouble here. Arcia couldn't get out of his glove, and they still turn the double play. Holy mackerel. It looked like they'd almost given up on turning that double play when Arcia couldn't find the handle initially, and they get it done. Month of April against the Reds, hit 10 of them overall in the month of April. And Thames has been at it again the last 2 games. 2-run home run and a 2-0 win yesterday. 2-run home run for the only 2 runs in a game here today. He's played 19 career games against the Reds and has hit 12 home runs. And now taking over on the mound for Bryce is a left-hander, Wandy Peralta.
Game number 9 for Wandy has yet to give up a run that's been charged to him. In fact, he's only given up 2 hits in 7 2/3 innings. He's walked 9, however. So far unblemished.
They'll face the aforementioned Thames and Yelich and Santana, lefty, righty, in the Milwaukee 7th. Brewers lead 2-0. Votto feeds Peralta, 1 out. Now Christian Yelich. His first game back since April the 7th. And here we are on April the 18th. Yelich has reached base for the 3rd time in this first start back. We talked about earlier all the snow they're expecting here today, and it has started up. Of course, the Reds are scheduled to fly out of here after the game, and one would suspect that they're more than ready for this kind of weather in this part of the country, and especially out at the airport, that sort of thing. Santana still hitless in the series. He's 0 for 11. And that one sails a bit high. 1 on, 1 out. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning in a 2-0 game. Talked about the crowds in this series. All the youngsters down here today, 27,343 for a 12:40 game. They had over 31,000 here last night. Boy, they just draw so well. And we mentioned this has become such a, it's always been a great baseball town. I mean, this is one of the original cities, you know, when they started first playing professional baseball. I mean, this is right there in the hunt with, you know, the Detroits and the Pittsburghs and the New Yorks of the world. Gone swinging is Santana. Two outs.
What a weapon that changeup is for Peralta. I mean, he became an elite reliever, I think, when he added the slider. He hasn't thrown too many of those so far this year, but his velocity has boosted up over the last couple of years. He's capable of going up to 97 or so. But that arm action on that changeup is as good as it gets.
You know, you think about all the Brewers teams they had, and make no mistake, you know, they've had some good clubs here in recent years. You know, going back a number of years ago, and they had Prince Fielder and, you know, that whole crew together here when Braun first came up. But you look at their attendance numbers. The best teams they've had in Brewers franchise history is when Cecil Cooper and Robin Yount got to the World Series. You know,
Harvey's Wallbangers.
That's right, Harvey's Wallbangers. Might have lined up Paul Molitor. I mean, it was just an incredible offensive team. They won the American League pennant before they came to the National League in '82. The '83 season, the year after they got to the World Series, was the first time they had ever drawn over 2 million. They never drew 2 million again for the next 15 years till they moved into this ballpark. And now they're drawn in some seasons over 3 million. They've done that 4 times. And every year they're up over 2.5 million. And there have been some good teams and some not so good teams. Straight away center field. But the primary reason is a thing that's keeping us out of that snow right now. With the Columbus Blue Jackets game going into overtime. So hopefully you'll get a little rest tomorrow. Brewers are going to go to their bullpen, and they bring on the right-hander Jacob Barnes.
Barnes is 28-year-old right-hander drafted and developed by the Brewers. Interesting really today with the Brewers. The starting pitcher Zach Davies was a very low draft pick. I think he was 20-something in the draft when he was picked up in 2011. Jacob Barnes, another one of those guys, odds against him to make the big leagues, and he was a 14th round pick in that same draft. This is his 3rd season in the big leagues. He was a big workhorse last year for him. 73 games. And had a really nice season.
They make a couple of changes in the outfield as Peraza grounds one to short. And that's out number 1 here in the 8th. Their regular center fielder, Lorenzo Cain, comes into the game, and that will push Yelich to his normal position, which is as a corner outfielder. We've seen in his career as a left fielder and a right fielder both. Votto today has walked, singled on a broken bat to right field in the 4th inning, and then he grounded out to Eric Thames, his last at bat in the 5th. Reds had 3 hits in the game last night. They have 3 hits in the game so far today. Boy, that was power fastball just above the knuckles on Votto there at 96. And we failed to mention that Hernan Perez also stays in the game. He goes from left field to right field. So 3 changes in the outfield. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Joey Votto. Struck him out swinging. The ball gets away, and Votto's going to try and take off. And
boy, is that a nice play by Jet Bandy. Is that still him back there? Yes, it is. I mean, this ball goes all the way by the batting circle, and he just kind of picks it up and throws it a la turning a double play sidearm, and right on the money to Eric Thames it goes. Huh. We've seen the best and the worst of the Brewers defense here today. Duvall scalded the ball last time he was up. That line drive to the left fielder hit it hard enough to, if he could have, as you mentioned, Tom, it was just unlucky that he kind of hit the top half of the ball, had overspin instead of underspin on it. So you're probably sitting at home wondering, how hard did he hit it? Our StatCast can show you that. Show you what Duvall's exit velocity was on that humpback line drive that he hit. 104.2. That's plenty enough to hit it out of here. I mean, if you get it at the right angle off your bat, that ball is gone no problem. If you're wondering about the Thames home run earlier in the 3rd inning, that was 107.
And he got it in the air. Way back. Into the Reds bullpen in right center. He's accounted for the last 4 runs, the only 4 runs in this series. The 2-run home run yesterday that came off Romano in the 6th, and a 2-run home run off Mahle today in the 3rd. So in the last 2 years, and the Reds are not going to play the Brewers again here in the month of April this year. In the last 2 years, he has hit 10 home runs against the Reds. 8 last April and 2 in this series. Again, that ball clobbered by Duvall, but fouled. One hopper to Arcia, and the Reds are gone in order in the 8th. 2-0 Milwaukee. First 20,000 fans get that Eugenio Suarez bobblehead presented by John Morrell. You can be there as low as $12. For tickets, visit Reds.com. A Wisconsin tradition. They play that song, Jump Around. And you actually started jumping. I was a little beat up today. Wow. Now look at you.
Got me fired up there, partner.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I started doing it a little bit, then all of a sudden you really started getting into it.
I forgot we had that camera here.
So did I.
Snoop cam.
You know, the one that shows off the divot. All right. Former Brewer. Jared Hughes takes over on the mound. Excellent work by both Bryce and Peralta today out of the Reds bullpen. Jim Day reported before the game, and we were talking about it last night. Last 5 games, this Reds bullpen with an ERA under 1. And nothing but goose egg so far today. See if Hughes can get his team to the plate for the top of the 9th inning. Trailing by just the 2 runs. That's where we stand. Miller Park in Milwaukee, the rubber game of this series. Slow tapper for Blandino, has time. That's a nice play by Alex down there, one away.
I think Blandino really opened some eyes in spring training as a young man that, you know, we talked about it before, how he was drafted high, 29th round or 29th pick overall, kind of a supplemental pick, I think is what you call it, when he was taken out of Stanford. And never really caught fire in the minor leagues until the last year or so. And then came into spring training this year as one of those guys who would just fill in here and there, and all of a sudden he started playing really well, and here he is in the major leagues.
And you said Stanford as in California.
Correct. Not Sanford as in Alabama.
It's where Urban went. Big swing and a miss by VR. Off day tomorrow for the Reds, and they begin a series in St. Louis on Friday night. Brandon Finnegan against Michael Wacha. Cardinals have flipped around the rest of their, well, the other two pitchers in the series. Carlos Martinez was supposed to pitch Sunday. He will now pitch Saturday. Miles Mikolas will pitch the finale. Reds will go with Bailey and Castillo the final two games. Both coming off very good outings. Up through the middle, and VR is on base for the second time. His second hit, the other one was a bunt hit. Well, it looks like after Hader went 2 innings out of the bullpen yesterday with 3 strikeouts, they're going to just go ahead and let Barnes attempt it, looks like, to finish this thing out here today. There's no action down in that bullpen.
Yeah, it is a full-fledged bullpen by committee here in Milwaukee until they get Corey Knebel back. There's Hader. He won 2 and probably not available today. Look for VR to make something happen on the base paths right here. Not much of a lead, though.
Straight away center field, and Hamilton waits on it. You know, getting back to Hader for a minute. Last night we saw something that has only happened 2 other times since 1893. That was the first season the distance from the mound to the plate was 60 feet 6 inches. Hader has at least 3 strikeouts in each of his last 7 appearances. The only other 2 pitchers to ever do that, strike out 3 or more in 7 straight relief appearances. The former Toronto closer, Tom Henke, and Tom Gordon. Only 2 pitchers, and now add Josh Hader to do that since 1893. That's pretty amazing when you think about it. But you know, in this day and age,
really.
You know, the more you think about it, I'm saying for that far back, because there was a time where guys like Raleigh Fingers, and there were many others, where they were pitching 2 and 3 innings out of the bullpen on a semi-regular basis.
You're right, but if
Mike Marshall,
if you go before them, the guys that were in the bullpen were guys who just simply weren't good enough to be in the starting rotation, and they probably weren't strikeout pitchers.
but you had a stretch there where you'd have thought it had been more than just 2 guys that were gobbling up some innings out of the bullpen once you got into the mid-60s and then especially the 70s and the 80s. But then all of a sudden everything got so specialized that now it's not a surprise that guys don't go that long, because a lot of the big guys are in for just 1 inning.
Well, and also, but on the other hand, it's now you're in the time when it's not embarrassing to strike out.
True.
where he is twitching over there. VR is like he might be really thinking about it. But you know, I go back to wonder why wait so long? Why didn't Arcia give him a couple of pitches in which to try to steal second? He didn't look like he was ready for the first pitch of the at bat. Arcia flies out on the second one.
There he goes, and no chance to throw him out. So give VR his 4th steal in as many attempts on the year.
The Brewers had seen Jared Hughes enough last year to know that he's got a little bit deliberate to home. So a real quick runner is going to take advantage.
Brewers have committed 3 errors in this game, giving the Reds a couple of big scoring chances in the early part of the game, the 1st and the 4th inning. Straight up in the air, and I mean to tell you, Bandy is livid. Winker's got it, and that'll end the inning. So the Reds will bat in the 9th. Jeanette, Barnhart, Blandino due up.
Votto messed with fans playing late. How about Hernan Perez on Kid Glove Day? He said, hey, we'll trade gloves. It was a big psych job. How about this one? Here's a ball. Nope. Psych. Save it. Later in the game, though, the two exchanged pleasantries. Hernan Perez having fun with the fans, and we like to see that.
Good stuff. All right, let's see if the Reds have saved their best for last. They bat in the 9th inning, and it's just a 2-0 game. The proverbial bloop and a blast. Scooter Gennett is 0 for 3 in the game. 3 ground balls to the right side, reaching once on an error by Thames, but the other 2 times thrown out by VR. Strike 1 from Barnes, who worked a 1-2-3 8th inning, trying to save it. Reds have to be so pleased with, you know, the starting pitching in this entire series. Castillo's line, as we talked about the other night, really because of the bullpen. And Castillo's mistake of allowing the bases loaded 2-out single to the pitcher Lopez. But he went into the 7th inning working on a 2-hit shutout. He led in 2, the bullpen led in 2 that belonged to him, but he was really good. And then Romano here last night pitches you into the 6th inning, gives up 2 runs. And now here today, Mahle. He goes 5. He allows a 2-run home run. He pitches out of huge jams in his final 2 innings, the 4th and the 5th. So there are things you can look at and hang your hat on in this series that would certainly be positive. That's 3 of your really young pitchers that you're hoping to build this entire rotation around moving forward, that have put together back-to-back-to-back solid games. Brandon Finnegan, another young guy. He just turned 25 last week. He'll get the ball Friday night, facing St. Louis for a 2nd straight start. 3-2 the count on Jeanette. How about that? A leadoff walk. So the tying run comes to the plate. I tell you, I don't know how these managers do it. I really don't know how they do it. And Craig Counsell's kind of, looking at that scorecard, but I can promise you, look at the way he grabbed the phone. You just tell by the body language. He's like, are you kidding me? I mean, we've known this guy a long time. This is one intense dude. And he's got to be saying, how in the world do you walk a batter in the 9th inning of a 2-run game? And I'm asking you that question. I mean, how does that happen? It's not like that. I don't care who you're facing. It could be Babe Ruth. It's a 2-0 game. How do you walk a batter?
Game played by human beings.
All right. That's true. I mean, there's no retort to that. That's for sure. Of course, then again, oh boy, and they get the out at first. I tell you what, this has been an adventure on nearly every play today for this Milwaukee defense, especially the right side of the infield.
Well, VR won't get an error on that, but it was a DP laying ground ball all the way. It looked like it came up and took a bad hop at the very end. Right there, came up on him a little bit, but he was able to stay with it to get an out.
Here's Blandino. He is 0 for 1. He was intentionally walked in the 4th inning, then drew a walk to start the 7th. The last hit the Reds had was the bunt single by Jose Peraza back in the 5th inning. But they're down 2 with 2 outs to play with. In their strike to get ahead on Blandino and 0-2. Pirates blasted Colorado today, ending a losing streak. Rockies were going for the sweep in that series. 10-2. Pirates win it. They sit atop the National League Central at 12-6. And gone swinging is Blandino, and the Reds are down to their final out of the ninth. All right, Cliff Pennington now to come up and bat for the Reds. We know he has some pop in that bat. Oh, and 1 to Pennington. 0 and 2 to Pennington. Pitchers of record are Davies and Malley, the 2 starters. Barnes is trying for his 2nd save. Barnes okays a sign with Bandy. Two balls and 2 strikes on Cliff Pennington. 2-0 game. We are in the 9th inning at Miller Park in Milwaukee. Crowd of better than 27,000. Those that have stayed through it on their feet. Brewers had not thrown a shutout the entire year until last night, and now trying to accomplish that feat in back-to-back games. Barnes still looking in. After getting ahead, the count goes full. Pat Murphy, right-hand man of Craig Counsell. Of course, it was Murphy who was Counsell's coach when he played collegiately at Notre Dame. Three-two pitch. And that's the all ball game as Pennington is run up on the outside corner by Jeffrey Kellogg. Look outside on that replay.
Yeah, even the movement of the catcher right there trying to frame it. That's a tough way to end the ball game right there. Jeez.
Back-to-back 2-0 Milwaukee wins, and they win the series 2-1. We're back with more in a moment.